The throne room of the kingdom was made of living crystal. It grew from the floor like frozen fire, blue and white and beautiful. Light moved through it like water, and the walls sang soft songs when the wind touched them. Prince stood before his father's throne and tried not to show his anger. "The mining convoy is gone," he said. His voice was sharp. 40 ships, 2,000 workers, they vanished near the border 3 days ago. The dying king sat upon his throne of crystal and bone. He was old, so old that his scales had turned from bright gold to dull gray. His eyes were clouded, but they still held a terrible knowing. "Which border?" the king asked. His voice was like dry leaves. Hesitated, "The Terran border." The throne room went silent. The crystal walls stopped singing. Every advisor, every guard, every servant seemed to hold their breath. The dying king closed his eyes. "Then they are lost." "We do not know that," said quickly. "There was no attack, no distress signal. They simply went silent. Perhaps their communication systems failed. Perhaps they drifted off course. We should send a fleet to—" "No." The word was quiet, but it filled the room like thunder. Stepped forward. "Father, I am asking for 12 ships. 12 ships to find our people and bring them home. The Terrans are primitives. They have only had faster-than-light travel for 300 years. We have ruled this region of space for 12,000 cycles. We do not abandon our people because of stories." The dying king opened his eyes. For a moment saw something in them, something old and cold and afraid. "You think they are stories," the king said softly. "You think the warnings are superstition." "I think," said carefully, "that no one has entered Terran space in over 100 years. I think that fear has become tradition. I think that we tell our children to stay away from the border, but no one remembers why." "I remembered." The king's words hung in the air, waited, but his father said nothing more. "Then tell me," demanded. "Tell me what is so terrible about these humans. Tell me why every star chart marks their space in red. Tell me why the entire galactic concordat, 37 species, 1,000 star systems, treats one small territory like it contains a plague." The dying king was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired. "I was young once, younger than you. My father sat on this throne, and I stood where you stand now. I asked the same questions. I had the same pride." He paused. "The Concordat sent a diplomatic fleet to assess the Terran military capabilities, 400 ships, the finest warriors of a dozen species. I was aboard the flagship as an observer." Felt something cold touch his spine. "What happened?" 6 ships returned." The king's claws tightened on his throne. 6 out of 400, and we never fired a single shot. We never even saw their weapons. We simply died, one by one, ship by ship, until only 6 remained and a human voice told us to go home and never return. "That was 140 years ago," said. "Perhaps they were lucky. Perhaps we were unprepared. Perhaps you are a fool." The words struck like a physical blow. His father had never spoken to him this way. The dying king leaned forward. His clouded eyes burned with sudden intensity. "The Communion was an empire of 800 worlds. They attacked Earth 2 centuries ago. Do you know what happened to them?" Everyone knew. They are gone. Gone, erased, not conquered, erased. Their worlds are empty, their people are dust, their language is forgotten. The humans did not defeat them. The humans made them never exist. The king's voice dropped to a whisper. "The Devourer Swarm, the Harvest Collective, the Burning Path, the Stone Kings. 17 species have challenged humanity, my son. 17 species no longer exist." Legends said, but his voice was not as strong as before. "Truth," the king sat back. "The border exists because your grandfather drew it with his own claws after he crawled home in one of those 6 ships. The warnings exist because he spent his remaining years screaming them at anyone who would listen. And I sit on this throne as a dying old fool who has kept his people alive for 140 years by following a single rule." "What rules?" "Never give them a reason to notice us." Stood in the singing crystal light and felt the weight of his father's words. But he was young, he was proud, and he was angry. "The convoy," he said slowly. "Our people, you would abandon them." "They are already dead." "You do not know that." "I know humans." Shook his head. "No, you know fear, you know stories passed down through generations. You know legends that have grown larger with each telling, but you do not know what is actually in that space. No one does, because no one has looked in over a century." He turned and walked toward the door. He stopped but did not turn around. "If you cross that border," his father said, "you will learn what I learned, you will see what I saw, and if you survive, if you are very, very fortunate, you will spend the rest of your life trying to forget it." Looked back over his shoulder. His father looked so small on that great throne, so old, so tired. "I will bring our people home," said, "and I will prove that the Terran threat is nothing but shadows and old memories." He walked out of the throne room. Behind him, the dying king sat alone in the singing crystal light. His claws trembled against his throne. His clouded eyes stared at nothing. "You understand nothing," he whispered to the empty room. "None of us did, not until we saw the bodies, not until we heard the silence, not until we learned what lives in that dark space between the stars." A single tear rolled down his ancient face. "Not until we learned what humans really are." 3 days later, Prince led 12 warships across the Terran border. He did not know that in 6 minutes, his sensors would go dark. He did not know that in 10 minutes, he would hear a voice that would haunt his dreams forever. He did not know that everything his father had told him was true. He was about to learn. The fleet crossed the border at 400 Galactic Standard Time. Stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Vengeance, and watched the stars slide past on the Terran space looked like any other space. Dark, cold, filled with distant suns. "Sensors are clear," his tactical officer reported. "No contacts, no signals, no sign of the mining convoy." "Continue forward," ordered. "Spread formation, maximum sensor range." 12 warships moved deeper into forbidden territory. Their crystal hulls gleamed in the starlight. Their weapons were charged. Their shields were raised. They were the pride of the kingdom. 4 minutes passed in silence. "Sir," the sensor officer's voice was strange. "I am detecting something odd." Turned, "What is it?" "I do not know. Our long-range sensors are. They are showing static, like interference." "Source?" "Unknown. It is spreading. Medium-range sensors are now affected as well." The officer's claws moved quickly over his controls. "Short-range sensors are—" He stopped. His scales went pale. "Short-range sensors are dark." Felt the first touch of cold fear. "All of them." "All of them, sir. We are blind." Before could respond, the communication array began to scream. It was not a sound any of them had heard before. A harsh electronic wail that seemed to drill into their skulls. Then suddenly it stopped, and a voice spoke. It spoke in perfect. It spoke in trade common. It spoke in 17 different languages all at once, layered on top of each other like a chorus of ghosts. "You have entered Terran space. State your INTNTONS or BDSDROID. You will not receive a second warning." The bridge went silent. Every officer stared at their screens. The message repeated again and again and again. Forced himself to laugh. "Impressive," he said loudly. "They have learned how to jam our sensors and send threatening messages, but words are not weapons. Continue forward." "Sir," his first officer began. "Continue forward." The fleet moved deeper into Terran space. 1 minute passed. Then the lights went out. It happened all at once. Every console, every screen, every light on every ship in the fleet. The Crystal Vengeance was plunged into absolute darkness, heard his crew cry out in shock and fear. He gripped the railing of the command platform and tried to stay calm. "Emergency power," he ordered. "Now." Nothing happened. "Engineering report." His voice echoed in the darkness. There was no response. Stood in the black and felt true fear for the first time in his life. He could hear his crew breathing. He could hear their hearts beating, but he could hear nothing else. No engines, no systems, no life. Then slowly the emergency lights flickered on. Red light filled the bridge. Shadows danced on the crystal walls. "Report," said. His voice was not steady. His officers scrambled to their stations. For a long moment, there was only the sound of claws on dead controls. "Sir," his first officer's voice was hollow. "We have lost 3 ships." Turned, "Lost? What do you mean lost?" The Iron Dawn, the Burning Light." The officer stared at his screen. "They are gone, no debris, no distress signals, no life signs. They were there, and now they are not." "That is impossible. 3 warships cannot simply vanish." "I am telling you what my sensors show." The officer looked up. His eyes were wide with terror. They are gone, sir, as if they never existed. Opened his mouth to respond. Then his activated. A human face appeared. Had seen images of humans before. Small creatures, soft skin. No scales, no claws, no natural weapons. They looked weak, fragile, like prey animals waiting to be eaten. This human did not look weak. She was female, knew enough to recognize that. Her skin was pale, marked by old scars that looked like burns. Her hair was short and gray. Her eyes were dark and cold like the space between stars. She wore a simple uniform, no decorations, no symbols of rank, just dark fabric and hard metal. "Prince of the Kingdom," she said. Her voice was flat, calm, like someone discussing the weather. "I am Admiral of the Terran Defense Force. You were warned. You did not listen." "Where are my ships?" demanded. "What have you done with my people?" "Your 3 vessels have been impounded. Their crews are alive and unharmed. They will be returned to you at the border." Admiral paused. "You have one chance to join them." "You dare?" "I dare nothing. I am simply informing you of your situation." The Admiral's cold eyes seemed to look through the screen and into Seoul. "You have entered Terran space with weapons charged and shields raised. This is an act of war. Under normal circumstances, you would already be dead." "Then why are we not?" "Because I am curious." For the first time, something like emotion flickered across her face. "Your grandfather learned this lesson 140 years ago. Your father has kept the border for his entire reign. And yet here you are. I want to know why." Straightened his spine. He was a prince. He would not show fear. "I came for my people. A mining convoy went silent near the border 3 days ago. I will find them and bring them home." Admiral was silent for a moment, then she nodded. "Your convoy drifted across the border during a navigation system failure. We intercepted them. They are safe." "Then return them." "They will be returned, along with you, along with your fleet, along with a lesson." The Admiral's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "You came here seeking answers, Prince. You want to know why your people fear us. You want to know what we are." She leaned forward. "I am going to show you." Felt his claws tighten on the railing. Some instinct, something old and primal, screamed at him to run, to flee, to get as far from this creature as possible. Instead, he raised his chin. "Show me, then. I am not afraid." Admiral's cold eyes studied him for a long moment. "Yes," she said softly. "You are, you just do not know it yet." The screen went dark. Around, his officers stood frozen. The red emergency lights cast long shadows across their pale faces. No one spoke. No one moved. Then slowly the engines came back online. The lights returned. The systems hummed back to life. And on the navigation screen, a new course appeared. A course that would take them deeper into Terran space, deeper into the darkness. Stared at it for a long time. "Sir," his first officer whispered, "what do we do?" Thought of his father's words. He thought of the fear in those clouded eyes. He thought of 6 ships returning from 400. He should run. He knew that now. He should turn his fleet around and flee back across the border and never look back. But he was a prince, and princes did not run. "Follow the course," he said quietly. "Let us see what they want to show us." The fleet moved forward into the dark. Behind them, unnoticed, a dozen human ships and followed like wolves trailing wounded prey. The lesson was about to begin. The station hung in the darkness like a metal moon. Stared at it through the of his ship. It was enormous, bigger than any station he had ever seen. Gray metal and sharp angles, no beauty, no elegance, just cold, brutal function. "Memorial 1, Admiral's voice said through the communication system. "You and your command staff will dock at Base 7. Your ships will remain here under guard. Any attempt to flee or fight will result in immediate destruction." Did not argue. He had seen what these humans could do. They had turned off his entire fleet like someone blowing out a candle. They had taken 3 of his ships without firing a single shot. They had shown him in the span of 10 minutes that everything he believed about power and strength was a lie. He took 6 officers with him onto a shuttle. They flew across the dark space between his fleet and the human station. No one spoke. No one needed to. The docking bay was cold and gray. Human soldiers waited for them. They wore dark armor and carried weapons that did not recognize. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. They did not speak. They simply gestured for the to follow. Admiral waited in a long hallway. Behind her was a massive window. Through it could see a planet. It was dead. The surface was glass and ash. Great circles of destruction marked where cities had once stood. Nothing moved. Nothing lived. It was a corpse of a world, frozen in the moment of its murder. "This was Mars," Admiral said. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. "Our first colony. 14 million people lived here once. Families, children, dreamers who looked up at the stars and wanted to touch them. Stared at the dead world. What happened? The communion happened." The name struck like a blow. The vanished empire, the species that had simply stopped existing. "They were afraid of us," continued. "We were new to the galaxy, young, expanding quickly. They decided we were a threat, so they came here to our first colony and they burned it. 14 million dead in 11 minutes. They used orbital bombardment platforms. They turned the surface to glass while our people screamed." She turned to face. Her face was calm. Her dark eyes were empty. "That was 200 years ago. The Empire ruled 800 worlds. They had the largest fleet in the galaxy. They thought they could break us before we became strong." "What happened to them?" asked, but he already knew. Everyone knew. "Come," said, "let me show you." She led them through the station, through halls of gray metal, through rooms filled with screens and data and the ghosts of the dead. Finally, they came to a great chamber. The walls were covered with names. Millions of names, billions of names. They stretched from floor to ceiling, carved into the metal in letters so small that could barely read them. Each name glowed with faint blue light. "These are our dead," said. "Everyone we have lost to the galaxy, every soldier, every civilian, every child who never got to grow up." She walked along the wall, her fingers brushing the glowing letters. "We remember them all, every single one." Looked at the endless names and felt something cold settle in his chest. "The killed 14 million of us," said, "so we killed all of them." She pressed a panel on the wall. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a star map. 800 stars glowed bright gold. The Empire at its height. Then the stars began to go dark. One by one, slowly at first, then faster and faster and faster until only darkness remained. "It took us 43 years, said quietly. "We hunted them across the galaxy, every world, every station, every ship. We did not stop until there was nothing left, not a single remains anywhere in the known universe. Their language is dead, their culture is ash, their children are dust." The hologram changed. More species appeared, more star maps. "The Devourers swarm. They ate 3 of our colony worlds. It took us 12 years to erase them." Stars going dark, silence. "The Harvest Collective. They took our people as slaves. It took us 8 years." More darkness, more silence. "The Burning Path, the Stone Kings, the Void Walkers, the Crimson Tide." Name after name, empire after empire. 17 species have declared war on humanity in the last 200 years. 17 species no longer exist. Watch the holograms with growing horror. This was not war, this was not conquest, this was extermination, complete, total, absolute. "You are monsters," he whispered. Yes, did not flinch, did not look away. "We are, and we know it. That is what makes us different from the others." She stepped closer to him. Her face filled his vision. "Every species in this galaxy fights for territory. For resources, for power, they conquer, they enslave, they destroy. But when they win, they stop. They take what they want and move on." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We do not stop. When someone hurts us, when someone kills our children, when someone threatens our survival, we do not stop until they are gone, not defeated, not conquered. Gone, forever. We burn their worlds, we erase their history, we make it so they never existed." "Why?" Could barely speak. "Why would you do this?" "Because we learned something long ago, on our own world, in our own history." His eyes were ancient, tired, full of terrible knowledge. "Mercy is a gift you give to those who surrender, but some enemies will never surrender. Some enemies will keep coming back, keep hurting you, keep killing your children. The only way to stop them is to make them stop existing." She turned and walked toward a door at the far end of the chamber. "Your grandfather was aboard one of the 6 ships that survived the first contact," she said without looking back. "He saw what we did to the fleet that came to assess our military capabilities. He understood. He drew the border. He created the warnings. He kept your people alive." She stopped at the door and looked back at. "Your father understood too. He kept the border. He kept the peace. For 140 years, they have lived because they followed one simple rule. Never give us a reason to notice you, said softly. His father's words, now he understood them. Yes, nodded slowly. You crossed the border. You brought weapons into our space. By every law we have, I should destroy your fleet and begin preparations for war with your kingdom. Felt his heart stop. Then why have you not? Because I want you to understand. His voice was tired, sad, almost gentle. I want you to see what we are, not because I am proud of it, but because I want you to go home and tell your people the truth. I want the border to stay closed. I want the peace to continue. I want no more names on this wall. She gestured at the millions of glowing letters, the endless dead. I am tired of killing, Prince. We all are, but we will not stop. We cannot stop. It is who we are. It is what we are. She opened the door. Come, there is one more thing you need to see before you understand us completely. Followed her through the door. His officers followed behind him. None of them spoke. None of them could find words. They were about to learn what humans truly were. And they would never be the same. The shuttle descended through white clouds and blue sky. Pressed his face against the window like a child. He had expected a fortress world, a planet of weapons and warriors, gray metal and endless armies, a world built for war. Instead, he saw green. Forests stretched across the land like living oceans. Rivers cut through valleys of flowers and grass. Mountains rose white with snow. Cities gleamed in the sunlight, but they were surrounded by nature, integrated with it, part of it. Earth, Admiral said. She sat across from him, her face unreadable. Our home, the world that made us. It is beautiful, said. The words came out before he could stop them. Yes, it is, looked out the window. Something soft flickered in her cold eyes. It has been trying to kill us for 300,000 years, and we have been trying to protect it for almost as long. The shuttle landed in a city called Geneva. Did not know what he expected when the doors opened. Armed guards, military checkpoints, signs of the terrible species that had erased 17 civilizations. He saw children. They were playing in a park near the landing pad. Small humans, tiny and fragile and laughing. They chased each other across green grass. They climbed on structures made of bright colors. They screamed with joy. Stared at them. These were the children of the species that had burned the Empire to ash. These laughing, playing, helpless creatures. Come, said, walk with me. They walked through the streets of Geneva, saw humans everywhere. They sat at small tables drinking dark liquid from cups. They talked and laughed. They argued about things he did not understand. They looked at art. They listened to music. They kissed each other in the sunlight. They looked ordinary, soft, weak. I do not understand, said finally. These people, they are not warriors, they are not killers, they are just people. Yes, nodded, they are. Then how? Stopped walking. His officers stopped behind him. How did these soft creatures destroy 17 species? How did they erase empires that had ruled for thousands of years? Turned to face him. The sunlight caught her scars, making them shine like silver. The Concordat calls us, she said. Do you know what that means? Your planet is dangerous, harsh conditions, extreme environments. Harsh, laughed softly. The sound had no humor in it. Our gravity crushes the bodies of most species. Our atmosphere corrodes your lungs. Our water is poison to half the galaxy. We have predators that hunt in packs. Parasites that eat you from the inside. Diseases that killed billions of us before we learned to fight them. She gestured at the city around them. We evolved on a world that wanted us dead, every day, every moment, for 300,000 years. We fought predators with sticks and stones. We survived ice ages that lasted 10,000 years. We clawed our way out of extinction again and again and again. She started walking again, followed. But that is not what makes us dangerous, continued. What makes us dangerous is that we also fought ourselves. They came to a long wall. It stretched for what seemed like forever. Names covered it, millions of names, just like Memorial one, but these names were different, these names were human. This is a memorial to a war we fought against each other, said. One war, out of thousands, 20 million dead, and this was not even the worst. Stared at the endless names. You killed each other. We invented genocide. His voice was flat, empty. We created murder on an industrial scale. We built machines to kill each other more efficiently. We split the atom, the fundamental building block of reality, and the first thing we did was use it to vaporize cities. Hundreds of thousands dead in a single flash of light. She turned to face him. Her eyes were old, ancient, full of terrible knowledge. We have committed horrors against our own kind that would make your species weep. We have done things so terrible that we built memorials like this to remind ourselves, to make sure we never forget what we are capable of. Then why, could not understand. Why do you show me this? Why tell me about your crimes? Because this is why we are dangerous, stepped closer to him. We know exactly what we are. We know the darkness inside us. Every human from birth grows up knowing that they carry the capacity for terrible evil. We teach our children about our worst moments. We make them study the horrors of our past. She pointed at the playing children in the distance. Those children know about genocide. They know about the atom bomb. They know about the concentration camps and the killing fields and the endless wars. They know what humans did to each other for thousands of years. That is cruel, said, to burden children with such knowledge. No, it is necessary. His voice hardened. Because when you know the evil you are capable of, you can choose not to do it. When you understand the darkness, you can fight it. We are not good, Prince, we never were, but we try, every day, every generation, we try to be better than our ancestors. She started walking again. They passed through the city, past shops and restaurants and theaters, past ordinary people living ordinary lives. The galaxy looks at us and sees monsters, said. They are right, we are monsters, but we are monsters who chose to be gentle. Monsters who built parks for children and theaters for artists and hospitals for the sick. We did not have to do this. Our nature told us to conquer and kill, but we chose differently. They stopped at a building. It was old, beautiful, filled with light and color. This is a museum, said. We built it to preserve the art of our species, paintings, sculptures, music, things of beauty that have no purpose except to make us feel something. She looked at. What species builds monuments to beauty while carrying the knowledge of its own capacity for destruction? Had no answer. This is what we are, said softly. We are survivors. We survived our planet. We survived our predators. We survived ourselves, and we did more than survive. We created. We dreamed. We reached for the stars. She took a deep breath. But we never forgot what we are. We never forgot the darkness. And when someone threatens our children, when someone burns our colonies, when someone forces us to choose between mercy and survival. She met his eyes. We choose survival, every time, no matter the cost. That is why the galaxy fears you, said slowly. Understanding was dawning in his mind. Not because you are strong, but because you will not stop. No, we will not, nodded. We do not fight wars, we do not conquer territories, we do not seek glory or power, we simply want to survive, to protect our children, to give them a chance to be better than us. And anyone who threatens that ceases to exist. His voice was gentle, almost sad. We take no pleasure in it. We build memorials to our enemies just as we build memorials to our own dead. We mourn them, we remember them, but we do not hesitate, and we do not stop. Looked around at the city, at the children playing, at the artists creating, at the ordinary people living their ordinary lives. They did not look like monsters, but he understood now that they were. They were monsters who had chosen to be kind, monsters who had built a civilization on top of their own darkness, monsters who would burn the galaxy to ash to protect a single child. And that was what made them terrifying. What do you want from me? Asked quietly. Why show me all of this? Smiled, it was a tired smile, a sad smile. I want you to understand. I want you to go home and tell your people what you learned. I want you to keep the border closed and the peace alive. She put a hand on his shoulder. I want you to live, Prince. I want your children to live. I want this to be the last time we ever meet. Looked into her ancient, tired eyes. And if we meet again? Smile faded. Then I will mourn you. I will build a memorial to your people. I will teach my children your name. Her voice dropped to a whisper. And then I will erase you from existence, because that is what we do. That is what we are. She turned and walked away. Come, your ships are waiting. It is time to go home. Followed her. He did not look back at the playing children. He could not bear to see the future destroyers of worlds laughing in the sunlight. The fleet crossed the border 3 cycles after it had entered Terran space. All 12 ships returned. Every crew member was alive. The 3 vessels that had been taken were returned undamaged. Even the missing mining convoy was there, their ships repaired, their navigation systems fixed. The humans had given them back everything. Everything except their pride. Stood on the bridge of the Crystal Vengeance and watched Terran's space disappear behind him. He did not feel relief. He did not feel joy. He felt only a cold, heavy weight in his chest. He understood now. He understood everything. His officers did not speak to him. They had seen what he had seen. They had walked the halls of Memorial One. They had stood before the wall of human dead. They had watched children play in the sunlight of Earth. They understood, too. When the fleet arrived found the throne room packed with nobility. Word had spread of his mission. Word had spread of his failure. The great houses had gathered to demand answers, to demand blood. The dying king sat upon his throne. His clouded eyes watched his son enter the crystal hall. He said nothing. He did not need to. Lord of the Third House stepped forward. He was large, powerful. His scales gleamed with the gold of old wealth. "Prince," he said loudly, his voice echoed through the chamber. "You took 12 warships into Terran space. You returned with your tail between your legs. The humans captured 3 of your vessels and returned them like they were toys. They humiliated the royal fleet. They humiliated the kingdom." Other lords murmured their agreement. Anger rippled through the crowd. "We demand an explanation," continued. "We demand justice. The humans have insulted us. They have shown that they do not fear us. This cannot stand." Looked at the angry faces around him. These were the great lords of the kingdom. Warriors who had never fought a real war. Conquerors who had never faced a true enemy. They knew nothing. They understood nothing. Just like he had understood nothing 3 cycles ago. "You want war," said quietly. "We want respect," growled. "We want the humans to know that they are not to be trifled with. We want them to fear us." Nodded slowly. He reached into his robe and pulled out a small device, the data package the humans had given him. "Before you speak of war," he said, "let me show you something." He activated the device. Holograms filled the throne room, star maps, fleet movements, death counts. "The Communion," said. His voice was calm, empty. 800 worlds, the largest empire in the galaxy. They attacked a human colony 200 years ago, killed 14 million civilians. The hologram showed the empire, 800 stars glowing gold. It took the humans 43 years to erase them. One by one, the stars went dark. The great lords watched in silence. Some of them went pale, others gripped their ceremonial weapons. "Not defeat," continued. "Not conquer, erase. They do not exist anymore, not a single one. Their language is dead, their culture is forgotten, their children are dust." The hologram changed. More species, more star maps, more darkness. The Devourer Swarm, 12 years. The Harvest Collective, 8 years. The Burning Path, the Stone Kings, the Void Walkers. Turned to face the assembled nobility. 17 species have declared war on humanity. 17 species no longer exist. Lord stepped forward. "Propaganda, human lies designed to frighten us." "No," the dying king's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Everyone turned to look at him. He was rising from his throne. His ancient body trembled, but his eyes were clear, focused, filled with terrible memory. "It is truth," the king said. "I saw it myself 140 years ago." He walked slowly down from his throne. Each step seemed to cost him great effort, but he did not stop until he stood beside his son. "We sent 400 ships to assess their military capabilities," the king said. "The finest fleet in the Concordat, warriors from a dozen species. We thought we were powerful. We thought we were invincible." He paused, his claws trembled. 6 ships returned, 6 out of 400, and we never saw their weapons. We never even knew how we died. We simply stopped existing. One ship after another, one crew after another, until only 6 remained. The throne room was silent. No one dared to speak. "I was young then," the king continued. "Younger than my son is now. I stood on the bridge of one of those 6 ships and watched my friends die. I listened to their screams on the communication channels. I saw their vessels disappear without a trace." He turned to face Lord. And then a human appeared on a female. She had scars on her face, cold eyes, and she spoke to me in perfect. The king's voice dropped to a whisper. She said, go home, draw a line on your star charts, tell your people never to cross it. If you do this, you will live. If you do not. She smiled. She smiled and said nothing else, just smiled. The king looked around the room, at the pale faces, at the trembling claws. I drew the line. I created the warnings. I have kept the border closed for 140 years, and every night, every single night, I dream of that human woman's smile. He turned to his son. Tell them the rest, tell them what you learned. Looked at the assembly, at the great lords who had demanded war, at the warriors who had never faced a real enemy. The humans do not want war, he said. They do not want to conquer us. They do not want our resources or our territory. They simply want to survive, to protect their children, to live in peace. Then why should we fear them? Demanded, but his voice was weaker now, less certain. Because when you threaten their survival, when you harm their children, when you give them a reason to fight, met the Lord's eyes. They do not stop. They do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They simply erase you from existence and build a memorial to remember you by. He deactivated the hologram. The throne room fell into silence. I walked on their world, said quietly. I saw their children playing. I saw their artists creating beauty. I saw ordinary people living ordinary lives. They looked soft, weak, fragile. He paused. But I also saw their memorials, not just to the species they destroyed, to their own dead, to the billions of humans they killed fighting each other. They know exactly what they are capable of. They have committed horrors that would break our minds, and they have survived, every time, no matter the cost. He looked at his father. The dying king nodded slowly. They are not warriors, said. They are survivors, and they have survived everything the universe could throw at them. Ice ages, plagues, wars that killed hundreds of millions. They survived their own capacity for destruction. He turned to face the assembly one final time. We are not a threat to them. We are not even an obstacle. We are simply an inconvenience. And if we become a problem, they will solve us the way they solved the way they solved 17 other species, completely, permanently, forever. Lord opened his mouth to speak. Then he closed it. He had no words. No one did. The dying king put his claw on his son's shoulder. The border stays, he said. His voice was strong now, certain. The warnings stay, and this assembly will remember what my son has told you today. The only way to survive humanity is to never give them a reason to notice us. He looked around the room, at the pale faces, at the trembling claws. This meeting is over. The lords filed out in silence. No one spoke of war. No one demanded blood. They walked out of the throne room like ghosts, carrying the weight of new knowledge. When the hall was empty, the dying king collapsed. Caught him, lowered him to the crystal floor. His father's breathing was shallow, weak. I am dying, the king whispered. I have been dying for a long time, but I held on. I had to make sure you understood. I understand now, father, held his father's claw. I understand everything. The dying king smiled. It was a tired smile, a relieved smile. Good, then you will keep them safe. Our people, our children, you will remember what I remembered, what your grandfather remembered, what every king must remember. I will remember. The king closed his eyes. The humans are not evil, he whispered. They are not monsters, they are simply what they are, survivors, builders, dreamers, and destroyers when they must be. He paused. I do not hate them, I never did, I only feared them, and that fear kept us alive. His grip tightened on his son's claw. Keep the border, keep the peace, keep our people safe. His voice was fatting. And never give them a reason to smile at you the way that woman smiled at me. The dying king took one last breath. Then he was still. Knelt on the crystal floor, holding his father's body. The throne room was silent. The walls had stopped singing. He thought of Admiral, of her face and tired eyes, of the children playing in the sunlight of Earth, of the endless memorials to the dead. He understood now why his father had feared them. Not because they were strong, not because they were cruel, but because they would do anything at all to protect their children, and they would not stop, ever. Gently laid his father's body on the floor. He stood. He walked to the crystal throne and sat down upon it. The crown of the kingdom was cold against his scales. He looked out at the empty throne room, at the singing crystal walls, at the legacy of 12,000 cycles. And he made a promise to himself. The border would stay. The warnings would stay, and no would ever cross into Terran space again. Because the only way to survive humanity was to never give them a reason to notice you. His father had learned that lesson. Now so had he. Far away across the border, Admiral stood on the observation deck of Memorial One. She looked at the dead world of Mars below her, at the glass and ash that had once been 14 million lives. Her communicator beeped. Admiral, the fleet has crossed back into their space, all vessels accounted for. Nodded, and the prince. Our sources indicate he is delivering a report to his kingdom. The data package has been accessed multiple times. Good turned away from the window. He understood they all do eventually. She walked through the halls of the station, past the walls of names, past the memorials to the dead, past the ghosts of 17 species who had made the wrong choice. She was tired, so tired. But she would keep going. She would keep warning. She would keep hopping that someday no more names would be added to these walls. Because that was what humans did. They survived. No matter the cost,